shoppers don't get what they want on time as promised. The reason why 1 in 5 online shoppers have to call and say, where is my order? And by the way, that cost Australian businesses roughly $13 billion in churned revenue to a competitor, that bad shopping experience.
Hey guys, Jeremy, the online ads guy here, founder of Digital Growth Marketing. Just came off a call with Jevon Le Roux. Jevon is out here in Sydney. Third-time founder, just a tremendous amount of experience when it comes to the e-commerce and the app game. We got to talking about his new platform that he's created with his co-founders. Yeah, really interesting stuff, especially if you work in the e-commerce space or if you have a business in e-commerce space. He is solving a massive problem where 1 in 5 e-commerce shoppers actually experience it. And it just breaks down a lot of the things that, goes beyond just a really simple solution, goes behind the reasoning and a lot of other stuff that we spoke about. Yeah, definitely worthwhile. Check it out, man. He gives some pretty good entrepreneur advice at the end of the recording as well. All right, check it out. See ya. All right, guys, welcome back to another episode. Today, I'm with Jevon Le Roux. Jevon is very, very experienced, and I didn't even find out until much later that he's actually in Sydney. So we were like neighbors. So, dude, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much for having me, Jeremy.
No worries. We might just go into the history because I know that as I was preparing for this call, like you got a really rich work history and all makes sense to what you currently created, right? So you want to give us a rundown of that?
Yeah, I might have a rich history, but I certainly haven't got rich off that history. I think that's the first thing to mention. But serious. On a serious note, my background, I dropped out of high school. To be a professional surfer. Did that for 5 years, and that taught me the art of marketing. That taught me the art of determination, and also taught me to get comfortable with failure. Which is something you need in the startup environment. You need to learn to be really comfortable with rejection and failure. When I finished being a professional surfer, I tried to launch my first business, which was building the Ezekiel surf brand in South Africa. This was early 2000s, and it was an absolute failure. I had no idea what I was doing. And so I went into a more safer role, working for Billabong. As a sales agent, built up the skill of selling, got a little tired of that after 7 years, and then decided to build Hurley, the Nike surfwear brand, ground up with my own working capital in South Africa. Took that from everyone in the industry saying we'd be a failure to why? Because I didn't have the experience, or we didn't have the capital, or you couldn't beat Billabong or Quicksilver. But I'd identified a really awesome gap in the market, and I worked it, and we went from being last to leading brand within 3 years.
Oh, wow.
And that was a good experience because I got to sell that business to private equity, and then went on to do an executive MBA to make up for the fact that I dropped out of high school. And that was like 2015, 16, 17, something like that. And then moved to Australia and worked for really incredible brands, Surf Stitch, PE Nation, the activewear brand, Papinel. And a lot of what I've done in those roles, a lot of my career has either been building businesses ground up from nothing, or scaling potentially successful businesses by bringing in the right operational platform, turning around businesses that are failing and making them profitable. So sort of 3 different sets, and I've also worked for myself. I've worked for private equity, I've worked for privately owned, and I've also worked for ASX. And in all those roles, they were CEO roles. So a really interesting journey.
Very, very impressive. I mean, like, it just shows that early on, like I was a high school dropout as well. And then I later on went back to uni because I think there's something to fulfill there or whatever. I had to do it. But you actually did a lot from that. I mean, in CEO roles, I was looking up some of the brands that you like Papinel, where you were the CEO of. Like really impressive, like really good looking people, like very high end brand. All that stuff. Cool. Amazing. So, and then today we're here to talk about this new platform I think you created, which I'm very excited about because I'm in online advertising. That's not what we're here to talk about. I'm in online advertising, and I kind of read the bio and I go, oh, this is useful. This is very, very useful. Right. And then when I connect the dots, I'm reading your history. I go, oh, this guy's been on the other side on the table. right? He is banging on the table. He's dealing with his problems. You know what I mean? Like, it's frustrating. There's people telling you they can't fix it, and you're sitting there saying, why aren't these things talking to each other? And then you came up with a solution. Do you want to tell people about that?
Yeah, I guess someone asked me the other day, when you want to build a startup, how do you go about it? And I say, you never look for a solution.
Yeah.
You never build a solution and then look for a problem. You live the problem and then build the solution. And that's precisely the situation I found myself in.
Yeah.
And I experienced that for the first time at SurfStitch, which was about $100 million e-commerce business, pure DTC business. And I noticed that there were a lot of people working in the marketing and the product department to catch the customer, bring them into the funnel, and convert them. And then there were just like a handful of people, like 1/10 of the people sitting in customer service,
Really,
to make sure that the customer had a good after the buy button experience. And I couldn't understand that imbalance. And it wasn't until I got to PE Nation, where I was the CEO there, did my co-founders and I stumbled on the situation, because there was an absolute disaster where 1,000 people ordered products that were not available in the warehouse because the systems weren't syncing. And so what happened was we had to call all those customers up, pass credit notes, say sorry. It hire extra people to do that. And my co-founder Tracy, who I met at PE Nation, she said to me, Jevon, if I could have seen those problems happening in real time, I could have prevented it from becoming a nightmare. And that's when we realized that customer service is built backwards. Customer service is about measuring, fixing something a shopper never wanted. A shopper never wants, when they hit the buy button, they never want a 1 in 5 chance of having to call the brand and say, where is my order? What's going on? No one wants that. No one wants to complain. But brands are measured on how well did we fix a problem, when they should actually be measured on how well did we prevent that problem from ever existing.
When you explain it like that, it absolutely makes sense.
Counterintuitive that we've been measuring fixing problems versus measuring preventing problems. And that was the simple understanding for us, is like, well, if we can actually prevent these problems from ever happening, the customer just doesn't know. And that goes back to the famous saying, the best customer service is that the customer never needs to call you, never needs to talk to you. It just works.
So our question before we go further, the time at PE Nation when it happened, around what year was that? Because I came in the game in 2019, just before COVID. E-commerce then exploded right after that, right? This was right before?
No, it was precisely at the start of COVID. And so what happened was we were planning for a mega warehouse sale, which is in a physical space. And then COVID hit. And so we really had to pivot and take this physical warehouse sale and turn it online. There were, if you remember, there were really 3 things that were happening in COVID. 1, a lot of time on Zoom. 2, a lot of online shopping. And at the same time, a lot of drinking wine out of a coffee cup, right? So in your pajamas, that was COVID. And so what happened was all these people were online. And so when we launched the warehouse sale, there was just this huge traffic burst. And our website couldn't cope. So the website stopped syncing with the warehouse. And it was just accepting orders because it thought the stock was there. And so it was really just like a perfect storm. And that perfect experience is what gave us the insight that customer service is built the wrong way around.
Nice one. And then now the solution that you've come up with, tell us about that, and then where it sits across the thing. So the reason why shoppers don't get what they want on time as promised, the reason why 1 in 5 online shoppers have to call and say, where is my order? And by the way, that cost Australian businesses roughly $13 billion in churned revenue to a competitor, that bad shopping experience. It's a huge problem. And the reason why that happens is that everything that happens after the buy button, you've got a lot of systems that manage an order. So you've got a shop front, you've got a payment gateway, you've got a warehouse system, you've got an order management system, an inventory management system, a carrier integration, carriers, delivery notifications, return solutions, and a help desk. Now, they all do a very specific function, like
process an order or pick and pack and whatever. And they're not designed to detect when a customer does not get what they want on time. Oh, we're pulling up. Oh, that's a great thing you've brought up over there.
Yeah. That's it. For podcasts who are listening, they can't see it, but for anyone watching this on YouTube, they're going to be able to see exactly all the layers. Well, that's not, I don't want to say layers, all the steps. Because we're going to talk about a layer later, but all the steps that goes into it. Yeah.
This is super helpful. So you can see there is a sequence: order, pay, process, pick, pack, ship, integrating the carriers, delivery, return, help desk. And there's all these solutions, and they're really good at performing a function, but they're not linked to the customer promise. And the customer promise is order before 2, pay express, ship same day, get tomorrow. And when something fails, it fails silently. And the first time a brand finds out is when the customer has not got what they want on time. And when a customer reaches out and says, hey, my customer promise has been broken, what are you going to do to fix it? And at that moment, the customer service people actually have no idea what's gone wrong. And so they go looking for a needle in a haystack to find the problem and then manually fix it. So what we do at Keeyu is we connect all of these solutions together into one platform. Think of us as an orchestration layer. We're not actually replacing everything. We're a completely new tool. And that orchestration layer is connected to the customer promise. And if anything threatens that, like a payment failure or a system sync or a lost in transit or out of stock, if anything threatens that customer promise, we identify it in real time, and which we call a system of detection. We then decide what is the right automation to fix it. We launch that automation and then fix it before the customer even knows something's gone wrong.
Right. So to go back to talk about the orchestration layer, right? So the businesses I work for, they are smaller. They don't do the numbers that maybe this is impactful, which I love to get into that later. So for me, I haven't heard of that word, orchestration layer, before. I had to research it, look it up, what it means, and now I understand it's like the where it came from was actually from like an orchestra, where the person who's directing on top, like the conductor is. He or she's not playing the music instruments, but they are coordinating everything from beginning to end. Right. So then I start looking at other layers. Oh, look, there's a lot of layers. So now I understand where this thing sits. And then my next question becomes like, what is it replacing? Like, what are some dodgy alternatives that's there now?
Yeah, today we're not replacing anything. Today we're just making these systems work better. In fact, we're not making them work better. We're just identifying what's going wrong quicker, and being able to fix that and quicker in real time and automate fixing it. So we're not here to replace anything today. We're here to connect this fragmented technology stack that is prone to failure. And we know that the problem is big because, like I said earlier, 1 in 5 online shoppers didn't get what they want. And they don't get that because there was an operational failure. And so we're not here to replace. We're here to orchestrate. We're here to sit across the top. We're a layer. And essentially, we're just making sure that we identify those failures in real time.
And you are already making, like, this is not like a concept. This is already working, right? You've already tested it. It's improved. And you want to talk about the case studies that you do have, that you want to, anything that you can share?
So we've been building, we've had paying customers for just on 2 years now. We've been building for a little more than 18 months. 30 months now. We've been building for 30 months. I forget that. I'd love for you to show the slide if you click a little further. For an early stage startup, there's some incredible brands on there that we've been able to sign up, like Puma and Helly Hansen, Quicksilver, Billabong. Really big, well-known brands, and including AHP Labs and IM8. So even though we haven't been around a long time, our product really solves a significant problem, and that is preventing tickets from happening. Every ticket that happens has a cost associated to it, and if we can automate that ticket, that means we can really save businesses a lot. And EHP Labs, one of our leading customers, they were able to reduce their tickets by 55%, and that turned into an almost $500,000 saving for them over 12 months. And they paid us, I think they paid us like $50,000, so it was a 10x ROI for them. So a real win.
Yeah, when I was reading that, it's huge. So let me understand. So now that we understand that doesn't replace anything. So when you go into these brands, right, and you do the pitch about like the orchestration layer and everything, is that language that they can kind of resonate with? Like to be like, yep.
Yeah, it is definitely been a bit of a journey for us, Jeremy, is sharing with these guys this new world. And I often equate it to you've been on a BlackBerry tapping away at a keyboard and you're like, hey, tomorrow I'm going to give you a phone with no keyboard. You can't see it. You can't imagine how you're going to type. And it's the same thing with Keeyu. You've been doing customer service reactively, backwards. You've never had a tool that gives you the visibility. You've never had a tool that then fixes these things. And so really it's taken a lot to educate the market. And I mean, this is a good example. You've got these post-purchase tracking tools that don't really prevent tickets and they're reactive. And then you've got help desks that handle tickets and are reactive. And then you've got reactive AI, which like just answers questions better. Then we've taken this whole new category, proactive AI, where we prevent tickets and it's proactive. And so this has been a big unlock for us is getting that little slice, but helping brands understand this new world has definitely been hard work for us. And we're trying to simplify our language. We're getting better at it because sometimes it can be a bit too technical.
And I think it's good. I think that it's not that far of a bridge to cross for them to understand. So when I was thinking about it, because I've never sat behind a desk of a big brand to understand how this works, right? So, but I can only imagine based on my life experience. So is it like a risk factor they're thinking about as well? Because you've presented it as a no-brainer. You said, dude, like, it's here. Like, which part is complicated? We're going to save you money. We're already using it. We have case studies. So is it the thing that they don't want to fall on the sword? They go, we've never done this before.
There's a couple of reasons. One, getting their head around the concept, first of all. Second of all is trusting the return on investment. E-commerce is notorious for people promising the world and delivering an atlas. When it comes to ROI, 3 is, this is going to be a big project. So it's like 3 things is an understanding of the solution to the problem. 2 is ROI, believability. And 3 is, do we have the capacity to implement this now? And so what we've built is we built a couple things to make that a lot easier. One thing is up front, for the next 100 customers, we're offering an ROI protection. So what we do is we present an ROI to them as part of the business case. And then if we don't deliver to that ROI over 12 months, we give them month 13 and 14 on the house. They don't have to pay us. So we're backing our ROI is the first thing. Second thing is we've built the product to be able to be easy onboarded, low maintenance for these guys. And so that's the other part. And then the third part is we're just doing a lot of awareness around this new category and how to change things out. So it's a bit about building awareness. It's a bit about believing in your ROI, and it's a bit about proving that this isn't going to be hard for businesses to implement.
Guarantee. So that might lead to the like the side thing that I was going to talk about, like the moat, right? Because so let me just break down a little bit, right? So my friend is a high end dev, and sometimes they're working on something for a government project for like 2 years, right? And I go, well, what's stopping people from coming on now and just quickly MVP it and then become a competitor? And he goes to me, it'll take him 2 years to learn what we've learned. Do you know what I mean? Like all the mistakes, all the stumbling, all that, they can't just come up and build the connections and all that. Is that the same thing for this, do you think? Like for your product 100%. As a moat?
And so, 100%. We're on version 4 of our product now, and we've certainly made some mistakes along the way. Specifically around the AI automations, we went down. This is our 3rd path now, and we're fairly confident we've gone down the right path. We've actually had a custom built our AI automations because there was just no solution out of the box. We're certainly not doing like make an N8 end and all those sort of things or relevance. That's not what we're doing. It's all bespoke built, ground up. But there's really 3 things we're doing. One is we're connecting all these tools and making sense of the data. So different data schemas, getting them to match, then linking all these different data schemas to one simple common denominator. When did I order it? When am I going to get it? And then figuring out how to detect those issues in real time. Like what are the signals? Then being able to figure out, well, like what automations do we apply? Like how do we decide what the right automation is? And then executing it and then making sure there's zero failure. So
that's what IP.
It's serious IP. So we've got a couple modes. One is the amount of integrations we built.
Yeah.
Mode 2 is the self-learning nature of this tool. It
Because it
learns,
gets smarter.
gets
Based on
smarter.
your business. Yep.
Correct.
Based on okay, cool. Didn't even think about that. Yep.
Yeah, and then the third part is the embedding of our workflows into the business. As soon as you extract people doing manual work and replace it with automations, you just end up being embedded. So we've got these 3 modes, and then we've got a rough 4th mode, which is a marketplace, the ability for us to sell these solutions on our platform. There are 8 modes, 8 modes in technology. Some of them are like unfair competitive advantage due to distribution, like a regulatory thing, for example. So we sort of tick the box on 3 out of 4. So we've got a bit of defensibility.
Yeah, nice. And also, I would say that I don't know like how you classify the mode, but like the coming up with where you're coming up, right? There's network. You have a network. You have proven track record. Do you know what I mean? Not everybody was a CEO of somewhere can just, you know what I mean? Like they had to be a CEO and they have to want to build this thing.
Yeah.
They had to be CEO in e-commerce. You know what I mean? Like,
I would like to think that helps.
I think so.
But I'd like to think that experience helps. Certainly gives us a bit more credibility when we sit in front of retailers and we're like, hey, we bought this thing and we understand because we've been in your position before.
Yeah,
and they do connect with that.
Yeah. So with the onboarding thing, because that's probably the last bit I want to touch as well. So with, in digital marketing, right? Attribution is a problem. Like people see ads, then people see a different ad, then people go watch a podcast and they come back, whatever, right? There's never any way to really track it. Yeah. But the thing is that a lot of products and services, they promise to track it, but at the end, it was just a little bit of UTM at the end of the thing and they kind of like stitch it together. So it's very much a letdown a lot of the time, right? Yeah. So onboarding is usually clunky, usually a lot of hand holding. And you alluded to this before about the onboarding, right? So can this kind of like, just say somebody took you on, can this run pretty smoothly without disrupting their current operation?
Yeah, 100%, because
I love it.
So let me just talk through this. So we go through a process. Our sales process is a discovery call to really understand the business, then a demo, and then a closing call. We then hand them over to our product team who do the scoping to understand precisely what their technology stack is like, and then an implementation manager takes over, and then an ops manager who builds out the product, makes sure that it's working for them. Yeah. And that process means we really get to understand their business and we're able to ensure that the product works great for their environment. And we have weekly or fortnightly check-ins, depending on the grade of the customer, monthly, fortnightly, weekly, where we talk about the usage of the product. But we certainly have got the onboarding down to a fine art. In fact, we're now doing assisted onboarding where they just have to click a few buttons and it does the work. We're busy building out agentic onboarding where they're just going to have to do no work by using a Chrome extension. Chrome extension.
Yeah, so that's going to be amazing. I'm looking at when you send over the like the target customer profile, and I'm reading. I'm really interested, and I think that one of the things that stood out to me was it is a volume game. Right, that's where the biggest impact can happen, isn't it? Like they just have to do a big volume to make this, like, take full advantage of this.
Yeah, I think it's actually more complexity. Volume is definitely important, but complexity because say you've got your single storefront Shopify moms and pops, they're running from their house, they've got some stuff in the garage. That's not our customer. No. So we always say the first tool they should have is a help desk or a return solution. If they've got those two, then they qualify. If they've got a customer service team, they qualify more. If the complexity of their technology stack, and specifically multi-storefronts, multi-geo, and if they have marketplaces added on, if they have social channels like TikTok or Instagram added in
everywhere,
pick and pack, ship from store, click and collect. You start adding all those things on, and your complexity gets more and more harder to manage, and that's where we thrive.
Got you. So the personnel that we want to connect you to would be what? Like the purchasing manager, not operations head?
E-commerce operations, e-commerce manager, customer service. Those are sort of 3 roles. Those are customer service as a user, e-commerce operations as a user,
Mm-hmm.
E-commerce digital managers, they're a champion.
Yeah.
And then the economic buyer would generally be CEO, CEO,
Yeah.
founder, depending on the size of the business,
Yeah.
or a chief operating officer. And then you've got your ratifiers like your CTO and your CFO.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Got you. Okay. That's amazing, man. Look, I'm pumped for what you're doing. I hope that it really, explodes and creates a new kind of marketplace for the orchestration layer. Was there
Yeah.
anything else on this episode that you think I haven't covered for your particular thing? Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
speaking to your audience around building a startup from nothing, right?
Yeah.
It's quite a rewarding process, but also a very hard process,
Yeah. Yeah.
And when we set about this 2.5 years ago,
Yeah.
everyone said, we don't understand what you're doing. Like, this isn't
Yeah.
is this really a problem? And you got 3 people that had worked in e-commerce for decades, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we could see the problem. We just believed in it. And so many people said, oh, there's no problem to be fixed here. And I'm like, no, but
Yeah.
hold on a sec. There's this huge category called customer service. It exists
Yeah.
because things go wrong.
Yeah.
So therefore, an equally bigger category should exist to prevent things from going wrong. And it took a long time and a lot of perseverance to just not believe all the people
Yeah.
that said it's not a problem to be solved. I think the first thing, so my guidance to anyone that's thinking of building a startup is just believe in yourself, believe in your problem, back yourself into a corner and just keep going and building, because if you can see that unique insight that no one else can see, that's the reason why you should exist.
100%. What a positive message. Well, thank you, man. Thank you for that positive message. I think that, just to go on that, I feel like even when we did the pre-call and we're looking at the deck and all that, I think, you explained the ER problem, the patient problem. I guess that's all refined over time and you guys were testing on each other. You guys tested it. And then, because now it's clear to me. You look at it, you're like, why can't anyone see this? But okay, cool. Yeah, I see. Because you were a journey, people didn't really get it for a long time. Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
Your story, one of the key roles you have as a startup founder is storytelling.
Yeah.
And that's actually my number one role is storytelling and getting better at telling the story. And you're 100% right. The other day we landed on the hospital ER thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was like a help desk manages tickets. Keeyu prevents them.
Yeah.
Hospital ER cannot prevent a heart attack the same way a help desk cannot prevent a ticket. It can only triage it after something's gone wrong.
Correct.
And when you put it into terms like that, people are like, oh yeah, that's right. Why would you, why treat the symptom when you can prevent the cause?
Yeah, cool. Amazing. So Keeyu, so if people wanted to connect with you, the right people that heard about this and they want to connect with you, LinkedIn still the go? Or what's the best way?
Yeah, you could go to our website, Keeyu, KEEYU.com. That's KEEYU.com. Or they can hit me up on LinkedIn. My name should be over here. They can just send me a message. But Keeyu.com if they're interested in connecting with us.
For sure. And then, I'll make sure that's all linked in the show notes and all other good stuff as well.
Awesome.
And we'll send a LinkedIn post when the episode comes out. Cool, man. All right. Thanks, Jevon. You are being a great guest, dude. I hope you enjoyed being here.
Thanks, Jeremy. Appreciate it, man.
All right, cool. Hey, what's up? Jeremy Yang, the online ads guy here, owner of Digital Glass Marketing. If you found whatever you're watching helpful, you found it interesting, like, subscribe, comment, suggest other topics you think we should cover here. We've aimed to release weekly episodes, helping SMEs with marketing, advertising, talking to professionals about growth, processes, all that good stuff. All right, see you on the next one.